The dust swirled around the worn wheels of the old Chevrolet truck as it pulled up to the modest farmhouse in the late afternoon sun. 24-year-old Margaret sat in the passenger seat, her hands trembling as she clutched her battered leather suitcase. Her long blonde hair was braided simply, and her floral dress, though clean and carefully mended, showed signs of years of wear. She had always been larger than other girls her age, and her family had never let her forget it. Her father's voice still echoed in her ears from that morning. "Margaret, this arrangement will solve our financial problems and get you settled. Thomas Brennan needs a wife to help with his farm, and frankly, we cannot be choosy about suitors at this point." The words had cut deep, as they were meant to. Her parents had made it clear that they considered her a burden, an unmarriageable daughter who ate too much and contributed too little. When the local bank had threatened foreclosure on their small general store, her father had eagerly accepted Thomas Brennan's unexpected proposal. "He is just a poor dirt farmer," her mother had said with obvious distaste. "But he offered to pay off our debts in exchange for your hand. Consider it your contribution to the family after all these years of taking from us." Now, as Margaret stepped out of the truck, she felt like a piece of merchandise being delivered. Her father barely looked at her as he unloaded her few belongings. "Thomas should be around somewhere," her father muttered. "Remember, Margaret, you are his responsibility now. Do not embarrass our family name." As if summoned by their conversation, two men emerged from behind the modest farmhouse. The first was clearly Thomas Brennan himself, a man in his early 30s with brown hair and kind eyes. He wore simple work clothes, a blue plaid shirt and well-worn jeans. His build was solid and strong from years of physical labor, and he moved with the confident gait of someone comfortable in his own skin. Behind him walked an older man with a full gray beard and gentle expression, wearing overalls and a cotton shirt. This was clearly Thomas's father, sharing the same honest features and warm demeanor. "Miss Margaret," Thomas said softly, approaching with his hat in his hands. "I am Thomas Brennan. This is my father, Samuel Brennan. Welcome to our home." Margaret was struck immediately by his gentle tone and respectful manner. Unlike other men who had looked at her with disgust or pity, Thomas's gaze held only kindness and genuine welcome. "I know this situation is not what you might have chosen for yourself," Thomas continued carefully. "But I want you to know that you will be treated with respect and kindness here. This is your home now, for as long as you choose to stay." Margaret's father completed the transaction with obvious haste, eager to return to town with his debt relief. As the truck disappeared down the dusty road, Margaret felt more alone than ever, standing in the farmyard with her suitcase and her fears. "Come," Thomas said gently. "Let me show you the house. You must be tired and hungry after your journey." As they walked toward the farmhouse, Margaret was surprised by what she saw. While the exterior was modest and unpretentious, the property stretched far beyond what she had expected. Well-maintained fences stretched to the horizon, and she could see cattle grazing in distant pastures. The house itself, though simple, was spotlessly clean and surprisingly spacious. The kitchen was large and welcoming, with a massive wood-burning stove and a sturdy oak table that could seat 8 people comfortably. "I know it is not fancy," Thomas said apologetically, "but we have tried to make it comfortable. Your room is upstairs, the first door on the right. You have complete privacy, and there are locks on all the doors." Margaret was surprised by this consideration. She had expected to be treated as little more than unpaid help. Samuel Brennan spoke for the first time, his voice warm and grandfatherly. "Margaret, my dear, I want you to know that Thomas is a good man. He will never do anything to make you uncomfortable or afraid. We both hope that in time, you might come to think of this place as truly home." That evening, as Margaret sat at the kitchen table sharing a simple but delicious meal of pot roast and vegetables, she began to understand that her assumptions about her new life might be wrong. Thomas and his father treated her with a respect she had never experienced. They asked about her interests, listened to her responses, and seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and opinions. When she mentioned that she enjoyed reading, Thomas's face lit up with pleasure. "We have a fair collection of books in the parlor," he said eagerly. "Please feel free to borrow anything that interests you. I would love to hear your thoughts on them." Over the following weeks, Margaret discovered that life at the Brennan farm was unlike anything she had experienced. Thomas rose before dawn each day to tend to his responsibilities, but he always ensured that she had everything she needed. He never made demands on her time or attention, instead giving her space to explore her new surroundings and find her place in the household routine. Gradually, Margaret began to understand the true scope of the Brennan operation. What appeared to be a simple family farm was actually a substantial agricultural enterprise. Thomas owned thousands of acres of prime farmland, ran several hundred head of cattle, and had profitable contracts with buyers in 3 different states. "Why did you never correct my father's assumptions about your financial situation?" Margaret asked one evening as they sat on the front porch watching the sunset. Thomas was quiet for a long moment, his hands folded in his lap. "Your father made it clear that he was looking for a solution to his financial problems, not a husband who would cherish his daughter. I thought if he knew the truth about our holdings, he might have different motivations for the arrangement." "And what were your motivations?" Margaret asked softly. Thomas turned to look at her with those honest brown eyes. "Loneliness, if I am being completely truthful. This farm has been successful, but it has also been empty. When I heard about your situation through mutual acquaintances, I thought perhaps we might be able to help each other." As autumn deepened into winter, Margaret found herself falling into the rhythms of farm life with surprising contentment. She discovered a talent for managing the household finances and began helping Thomas with the business correspondence. Her careful attention to detail and natural intelligence impressed both men. More importantly, she began to feel valued and appreciated for the first time in her life. Thomas consistently sought her opinion on important decisions, and Samuel treated her like the daughter he had never had. The transformation was not just emotional but physical as well. The regular meals, outdoor work, and genuine happiness began to show in her appearance. She still carried extra weight, but her posture straightened with confidence, and her eyes began to sparkle with life. One snowy December evening, as they sat by the fireplace reading together, Thomas set down his book and looked at Margaret with unusual seriousness. "Margaret, I need to say something, and I hope you will not take offense." Margaret felt her heart skip with worry. Had she done something wrong? "When this arrangement began, I thought we might develop a partnership of mutual convenience," Thomas continued carefully. "But somewhere along the way, my feelings have changed completely." He paused, gathering his courage. "I have come to love you, not as a business partner or household helper, but as the woman I want to spend my life with. You bring joy and intelligence and warmth to everything you touch." Margaret felt tears spring to her eyes. "Thomas, You do not need to answer right now," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know that if you ever choose to make this marriage real in every sense, it would make me the happiest man alive." Margaret looked at this kind, successful, genuine man who had shown her more respect and affection in 6 months than her own family had in 24 years. "I love you too," she said softly. "You have given me something I never thought I would have, a place where I am valued for who I am, not judged for who I am not." The following spring, they held a second wedding ceremony, this time as a celebration of love rather than obligation. Margaret had bloomed into a confident, radiant woman who managed both the household and significant portions of the farm business with skill and intelligence. Her family, upon learning of Thomas's true wealth and status in the community, attempted to re-establish contact. Margaret politely but firmly declined their overtures, having learned that true family is created through love and respect, not obligation. Years later, as Margaret watched their children play in the same farmyard where she had once stood with a suitcase and a broken heart, she reflected on the unexpected turns that life can take. Thomas had given her far more than financial security or social status. He had given her the gift of seeing herself through loving eyes, and discovering that her worth had never been determined by her appearance or her family's narrow expectations. She had found her home, not just in the sprawling acres of the Brennan farm, but in the heart of a man who loved her exactly as she was.